What have been some of your biggest influences from a content perspective, media perspective, or just life?
Um, Early on, it's hard to say. There wasn't really any YouTubers that I actually found that I actually was really, really invested in watching. I never really watched many fitness YouTubers. I kind of just didn't really vibe with their content. I kind of did my own thing as far as my content. Even the way when I used to do like day in life vlogs, I just didn't really take any sort of inspiration. I just did my own thing. I would do less quick shots, just me on my iPhone, like chilling, like, girl, like longer shots. So like I didn't necessarily take much inspiration from other people as far as my content. I will say in the last couple years, like I did connect with Andrew Tate before he popped off on social media when he only had a few 100,000 followers. And I did talk to him quite a bit, and I did see his content, and and it was cool. I liked how he basically would talk about anything. He didn't just stick to, promoting his offer, and he would talk about anything, be candid. As far as charisma, I found he was very, in interviews and stuff, very charismatic and very like dialed in. So when I saw him, like before he really popped off, I was like taking some notes. I'm like, hey, he really, really knows how to like capture attention. He really knows how to like, really like come across well on camera. And he also kind of plays it up a little bit. He turns it up a little bit, even just not even in what he says. He does that, of course, but in the way he says it, he magnifies emotions, which is really, really actually really powerful. And actually, you know what? To give credit where credit's due, I think like when I did that Who Else ad that really took off, Who Else? What I liked about what he did, and this is also on dopamine, right? Like I think the way I think he actually trained his dopamine system very well, because him and his brother would just be having so much fun. Most people in London or in Europe, they're like start to make money, they're shyest, they're sheepish. Oh, gotta hide it. People don't like flexing. And he'd be like, we're flexing on the broke boys and lamb. Like it's like a 6-year-old has $100 million. And so having fun with it and just telling yourself you're so awesome, we have all this. Yeah, it's arrogant, but it actually is very good for your dopamine system. It gets you excited. When you punish yourself from having success and, I shouldn't share it, it actually takes the fun out of it. And it can actually dampen that dopamine response. And again, you know what? They can test this out. Test this out. Don't just take my word as the voice of God. Test your dopamine. Try these different things out. Talk to yourself this way. See what happens over a long enough time frame. But I have firsthand experience. Like when you have fun with it and you really like, okay, you're getting, we're having a Lambo. You're like, so it just, the way he operated was very, very good for motivation. Extremely, extremely good for motivation. And then in that Who Else video, so one of the things that he would do pretty well he would ramp up the way he talked, and he would speak like he would just, if he was good, like he would 10x it. Awesome. Like, and so you can be arrogant. Some arrogance, it gets people to listen and they like it. When you speak with absolute confidence, you cut through the noise. So a lot of people are kind of raised, and we're actually raised, don't stand out, kind of like, you don't want to upset people. You don't want to break a few eggs, like just kind of be likable. And so the way that most kids are raised is to be likable. Okay. And that's fine, right? The problem with that is that you fit in, and it's very hard to separate from the pack when you're focused on being likable. And yes, you don't want to be a dickhead. And yes, you want to be kind. And yes, you want to treat people well. All of those things are extremely important. Okay. But if you're going to separate from the pack, you have to be willing to take a little bit of heat, and you have to be able to raise the noise, raise the temperature a little bit. You just have to do it in calibrated ways. Like you can do it the wrong way and just make a mess for no reason. But by like by kind of being like, yeah, I am the fucking shit. And like, yeah, this is freaking awesome. And like, who else is doing it? Who else? It's like people freaking love that shit. And people respond to that. When you see someone that speaks with absolute confidence, absolute conviction, you're like, I want to listen. And then at first you might be like, and this is actually very, very normal, okay? And this is actually not a bad thing. At first, when someone speaks with absolute conviction and confidence, you're gonna be like, this guy's full of shit. This guy is full of shit. And you keep listening and you're looking to see, okay, is this guy full of shit? You're looking for it. And if the proof is there, then you're like, fuck, good, okay? Like, hell yeah. So if you actually have the result, and if you're real, you can actually magnify the way you talk, speak with absolute confidence and authority, And people will come at you and they'll be looking for the chink in your armor. And as long as they can't find it, they'll be like, fuck yeah. This guy's awesome. This guy's dope. But again, you can't have the chink in your armor. So I mean, when I speak with absolute conviction and confidence, I'm like, well, here's my blood work. Well, here's my 8 years of DEXA scans. Well, here's thousands of transformations of insane results. Here's me repping 315 on bench for 6 reps at 175. Like, it's just so much freaking proof. It's like, fuck, okay, well, no one else is showing that. So, all right, I'm buying this program. So you have to be able to back it up. But if you can back it up, you can magnify the conviction and the conviction in how you speak.
You mentioned before about Andrew Tate, and I'm curious what you think of his imprisonment and him being held in.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously anyone like kind of watching, like going off the evidence, it just seems a little bit off, right? Like I haven't seen any sort of like victims really come forward. It just seems like it seems a little bit shady, right? What do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Really, that's why I'm curious from your perspective.
It's like, I mean, like I think he's been locked up for like 3 months now. They keep extending it. There's no charges that have been made. Some of the women that were called victims have come forward and been like, no, I'm not a victim. This is not true. This didn't happen. So all of that sort of evidence, it just makes it seem silly. Like I think in the very beginning, a lot of people were like, oh my God, what did he do? This is terrible. But then as time has elapsed, you know, you see CTV footage of the supposed victims walking around getting pizza. So, I mean, if you actually just look at the evidence, it's actually pretty scary that, you know, that in certain places they can actually you know, do what they want. I mean, I you know, so it is pretty sad to see, you know. I think continuing his jail sentence and holding him is I don't know. I don't see any evidence to keep him inside. And I don't see the threat. So yeah, it's actually pretty sad.
It's wild just that there's been no trial.
Well, I'll say this. If he didn't erupt to massive amounts of fame, he wouldn't be in jail. If he didn't have the crazy influence that he had, however you judge that influence, whether you think it's positive or negative, good or bad, if he did not have that influence, I have a very hard time seeing that things would have played out the exact same way it did. Obviously, a lot of people do not like him having that level of influence. So I think there's a connection there.
Interesting. Yeah, it's just.
But I think everyone thinks this. Everything I'm saying, it's not like I'm saying some crazy theory. I think everyone, even people that support him and even people that don't support him, probably can agree. Yeah, this is okay. I'm not seeing the evidence. I'm looking into it. I'm not seeing any crazy story here. I see almost proof that almost supports him, and yet he's still in jail. And much of the world does not like him. Much of the world wants to cancel him. They want to cancel him from social media. It just the way it's played out looks like there's a link between his popularity and them holding him in jail. So, I mean, it is bad. No matter if you like him or not, it is a bad thing. You don't want to live in a world like that.
We've never seen somebody blow up so fast and hit people at such a deep level. Why do you think that he resonated with so many people?
I mean, you know what? Like, he was very entertaining to watch. He was extremely, extremely entertaining to watch, and he had a voice that very few people could. I think there's a lot of people that tried to sort of say similar things as him, but they weren't cool, or they came like, you know what? Here's the funny thing, right? There are people that have certain messages as him, but kind of come off as like assholes and dickish in interviews. To his credit, if anyone that doesn't like him, if they watch his long form content, he's actually very likable in long form content, even with people that he doesn't agree with. He's very respectful. The way he's able to actually share his thought and his argument is actually very well done with women, especially. So he actually like he's a, you know, almost like a cartoon character, right? He's a cartoon character. Professional kickboxer, got the cars, the Lambos, tons of money, living life on his terms, you know, living all over the world, traveling, perhaps beautiful women too. And so he has like this kind of aspirational lifestyle that a lot of young men find enticing. And then he's hilarious. And a lot of times, like him in interviews, he's playing a certain role. He's playing up a role. Like, sure, it's grounded in some of his beliefs, but he's having fun with it. He's making it entertaining. He's not just saying it like, you know, like he's not just saying it to say it. He's like making people laugh. And so in his content, like if you watch it, it's actually very fun to watch. And, you know, he was, you know, one of the few people that would speak out about certain things that you were not supposed to speak out about. And do it with a decent amount of platform and do it on big interviews. And a lot of the people that even didn't agree with him, they loved the fact that he would speak out on certain things. So it almost felt like, I think a lot of people felt like it was an important voice to get out there in a unique way. And again, if the world and landscape was very different to how it is now, maybe people wouldn't have cared as much because, okay, cool. Like, you know, but with the way things were becoming, it almost felt like, in the way that the government, like, you know, even if you listen to him talk about how the government acted during the pandemic and stuff, it's pretty important. And no one else, who else was speaking out in such a way?
Yeah.
You know, he did it very well. He did it in a very entertaining way, and he did it and he did it very successfully. So, you know, I don't think he needs to be as controversial as people made him out to be. Maybe some of the things, you know, people don't agree with, and maybe some of the things he goes too far on, but I don't think he should be that controversial. I think the amount of influence he had, and people that with low IQ seeing certain clips and taking it 10 times, you know, not understanding things from outside of context. But if you watch all the interviews and all the long form content, like, I don't think he's that controversial. I think there's people that are way more controversial.
Well, what was interesting to me is I saw him get better as a communicator, and I don't mean that. So it was wild because I'd watch an interview from him in 2020, and then I'd watch one from 2022, and I'd be like, wow, he got better at expressing his point in a clearer way, in a more charismatic way, in a way that got people excited or got people to hate it. And I thought that was so fascinating because it just shows like the reps and the feedback that you get and how you could get better as a communicator by just putting stuff out there.
Yeah, and you know what? He had very, very, very good advice for young men. Exceptional advice. You know, play the hand that you're dealt. You know, life's not fair, and this is the way it is. But you got to play, like, this is the chessboard. You got to play it the best you can. Most people are complaining about the chessboard. They're complaining about their hand. They're victimizing, and also some of that crew or whatever you can call some of the that culture. They're kind of like anti-women and women this, women are going to ruin your life, women that, and that's kind of bullshit. And I don't like that. And you know. And like, I think he has a more of like, you know, he doesn't have that view. And again, I think like the most mature place to be is not to kind of be not to have one extreme turn into another extreme, but to kind of find that middle ground. And I think, you know, like men and women, obviously deeply, I mean, even Eckhart Tolle says that on a very deep level, right? You know, we're complete, but on like the level of like masculine, feminine, we're incomplete. And that incompleteness is felt as attraction. Why am I attracted to, you know, a beautiful woman, for that feminine energy? And why is she attracted, you know, the masculine? And so that polarity is experienced as attraction. And I think life becomes very, very good when you are with someone that you love, when you love deeply, and to kind of tell yourself, oh, women are going to ruin your life, women this, it's really not the highest quality of life to be had. And so I think like, you know, I think he understands that. I think he practices that in a certain way, and everyone is free to live the life how they want to. But, you know, I think that a lot of other people in sort of this different culture, or whatever you want to call it, are anti-women. And then there's a certain culture that are anti-men, and both those are inherently wrong.